Hey dudes and dudettes, it's me, E.H. Ivins, and this is another edition of The Radical Reset. Today we're going to talk about Joe Biden, Hunter Biden, and the Burisma scandal. And it is a scandal. And what we're going to talk about, I'm not going to rehash the scandal. We all know the story. Hunter Biden, without a doubt, took millions of dollars in fees from Ukrainians and Chinese in return for his name. The kid is qualified for nothing. He was cashiered out of the military. He's a recovering addict. Which there's nothing wrong with being a recovering addict, but I'm just pointing this out to show that the guy is not exactly a tower of character and honesty, and because anyone who's dealt with addicts, as I have, you know that they lie like they breathe. They lie and lie and lie. I mean, anyone who's dealt with addiction knows that that's what happens until the addict comes to grips with it, which he may or may not have done. That's not what I'm here to discuss. What I am here to discuss is the disgusting way in which this story points out the obvious bias in the media between conservatives and liberals, of which I am neither. Remember, I am an anti-politist, which we will get into back in detail and in review after the election, but underneath that, essentially libertarian, which defies the right or left label. Okay, so Joe Biden's the only reason, look, put aside what Trump's going on and on, how the Biden family is a criminal enterprise, and Biden is going on that this is a manufactured story of Russian disinformation. Okay, I hate to be the one to clue you all in, but there is not a shred of evidence, including a briefing by the National Intelligence Director, or the Director of National Intelligence, the DNI. There is no Russian involvement in this. This has nothing to do with Russia. That's a Democratic Party talking point, okay? The simple facts of this, and at its least, it's not illegal. In other words, Hunter Biden takes the job with Burisma. It's not illegal what he did. It should be, but there's a difference, and this is the point I want to make, between illegal and wrong. It was obviously wrong. He was obviously trading on his last name, and his father obviously knew it. So before we get into whether it's illegal or not, and the veracity of the emails and so on and so forth, let's be very clear about this. It's wrong. It is simply wrong. And if you try to compare, I know what's going to go on here. All of you guys who are Trumpites, or Bidenites, I should say, are going to be saying, but the Trump children have gotten richer since Trump's been president too. Yes, but they have real businesses. Ivanka's business is real, and the Trump boys are running, Don Jr. and what's his name? What's that kid's name? He's so unimpressive, I can't remember. But anyway, the Trump children are running the actual Trump business, for better or for worse, and or their own businesses in the case of Ivanka. And yes, they're making a lot of money, but they're earning it through actual businesses that they actually run. It is a false comparison. They are not drug addicts who were cashiered out of the military, who do nothing for a living and are trading only on their name. Certainly they trade on their name in the sense that they can't escape that they're the children of the Donald, but at the same time, they are certainly going to work as the child of any successful businessman who is taking, there's nothing wrong with nepotism. I mean, who are you going to give your company to? Your children or a total stranger? I completely understand passing it to the kids and supporting them. Now, what Hunter Biden did was a technically legal, but completely repulsive exercise in trading on his father's names. He made himself a millionaire and is living, as we speak, in his Malibu. And if you've ever been to Malibu, it is a highly exclusive beach community, just a little bit to the north of LA on the coast. It is a gorgeous, gorgeous spot. It's where the wealthy and the powerful live, and he's there on money that he earned from a Ukrainian gas company when the guy doesn't know the first goddamn thing about natural gas. Not a fucking thing. I know more about natural gas. Because of my background in investing, I could probably tell you more about natural gas and fracking and drilling and the techniques that are involved in it than he could on his best day. And I am no expert. No expert. I just guarantee I know more than he does. So on the surface, what Hunter Biden did was wrong, and the fact that Joe Biden knew it and didn't put his foot down, had that been my son who was doing that and I had been the vice president, I can assure you my reaction and your reaction would have been, son, you can't do that. I'm sorry, I know you want to make this money, but it's just wrong. The appearance is vile. I'm not going to do favors for Burisma. You can't take this job. Son, don't do it, okay? And that would have been the end of it. But that's not what happened. Joe Biden knew, and his son took the jobs, and they rested. This is what happens when you're in politics for 47 years. You lose sight of what's wrong while you're worried about what's illegal. That in and of itself is not illegal, but it is absolutely wrong and shows that when Biden attacks Trump for his ethics, it's the pot calling the kettle black. It's just nonsense. Okay, now we get into these emails. The story goes, and it's such a bizarre story, I can understand why at first you'd want to verify all the sources. So when the story first broke in the New York Post that Hunter Biden had left his laptop at a repair shop for over a year, and that the guy had turned it over to the FBI and Rudy Giuliani's attorney, the whole thing seemed so fishy, even to me, that I didn't really believe it. But a few days have gone by, and we noticed two things. Number one is there have been no denials of the veracity of the emails from the Biden campaign. Now look, if someone has done something wrong and it comes out, or has not done something wrong and they're accused of it, the normal and natural reaction is that's not true. Okay, instead of bullshit stories about how the Russians are undermining the election, let's just speak to, are the emails real? You know, let's not worry about whether they were hacked. Look, the Pentagon Papers, those of you old enough to remember this, the Pentagon Papers, this is before computers, but were basically a hack, okay? You know, they were taken out of the Pentagon, exposing Nixon's lies and Johnson's lies about the Vietnam War by, I forget who it was. It was a famous, I don't know, I'm just drawing a blank. But anyway, that's a hack. Taking something that doesn't belong to you out of a secure space is a hack. That's the same thing that that Edward Snowden did. It's the same thing that WikiLeaks did. And everybody, you know, loves a hack until it's against them. You know, Hillary Clinton loved WikiLeaks when they were outing Trump, but when they started outing her email, she wasn't in love with them. You know, that's how politicians are. They become enamored with whoever's helping them, and the enemy has nothing to do with right or wrong. It has to do with whether they're caught or not. In this case, these are these emails hacked in the sense that, you know, obviously Hunter Biden had an expectation, in his mind at least, when he turned over the laptop and didn't pick it up. That goes to show you what a rattled addict he was. He was probably trying to fix it to hawk it later to get drug money. But anyway, I digress. I don't really know that to be true. But having said that, the natural reaction would be they're false. But they aren't false because there are a lot of other people on those email chains, and a number of them have come forward and said, yeah, I got that email. I was on that chain. That's a real email. That really happened. So it looks like, if the emails can be believed, that in fact Joe Biden took a meeting with the Burisma executives at the behest of Hunter, if the emails are to be believed. And if that's the case, that is blatantly illegal, which means that the real reason that Joe Biden is probably not denying the veracity of the emails, and who knows, by the time you're watching this, he might have already done it, and he might have gone into stupid mode, which is deny what's true, but we'll see. But so far is, what you don't want to do is ruin your court case later for after the, you know, after you're convicted. You don't know what the future brings. You know, today it looks like everything's in the Democrats' hands, but tomorrow it could be in Republican hands, and Joe Biden could easily find himself in 2 years. Let's assume he wins the election and the Democrats control the Congress. That will almost certainly lead to a backlash, as it always does, and the Republicans will take one or both houses of the Congress in 2 years, at which time the investigations will open, Joe Biden will be indicted, and then these things will come back to haunt him later. He cannot lie about this and not have it haunt him. I know. I have been to prison for white-collar crime. I know what it is to do things stupidly. Okay, I only know what not to do because I've been there, done that, got the t-shirt. And I'm telling you, you can't lie about this stuff. When you're caught, you're caught. And Biden isn't lying because he's caught. He knows it. So now what he's going to try to do is blame the messenger. He's going to plaster the New York Post, which is not the mainstream New York paper, obviously. Don't confuse it with the New York Times, which is the mainstream paper. But it looks like, but the only two outlets that are really checking out this story are the New York Post and Fox News. And Fox News has been very careful about this. I've actually been watching. A lot of people that criticize Fox News criticize them as being biased or a mouthpiece for the right, but you're not watching enough Fox News. I mean, if you want to see an enemy of Donald Trump, watch Chris Wallace on Sunday mornings. I, by the way, love his show, but he'll go right after him. Okay, so don't not necessarily assume that Fox is in the there are some Fox hosts that are, like Hannity and, you know, and I forget who else, others. Laura, whatever her name is, Laura Ingalls? No, that's a character from Little House on the Prairie. Laura Ingraham. I obviously don't watch her, but anyway, having said that, they do have people on their, you know, their commentary shows that are in the bag for them, but they also have people that aren't. I mean, I would say John Stossel isn't and Judge Napolitano isn't, but anyway, that's a digression. Let's stay on course. Fox has been checking this out, and so far it's checking out, although they are careful to say they're doing more checking. It's not done yet, but they found the receipt for the laptop. They have proven that some of the emails are true, at least all the ones they've been checking on. So is this a serious story, and should this affect your vote? And I say yes. I think what's been really interesting about the last week or so is the arrogance that I've seen displayed by Joe Biden. The one thing that made me like Joe Biden, he was kind of like your old Uncle Joe. You know, that's Uncle Joe. He's a moving kind of slow at the junction, Petticoat Junction. That's for those of you who are old as the hills. That's an old TV show that I used to watch as a kid. Forget that I even said that. But anyway, old Uncle Joe was just this great guy that you could count on, and you know, he was sweet, and he's going to bring back normalcy, and he's going to bring back honesty, and he's going to bring back decency. And then he answers questions with unbelievable arrogance. The first time I saw it in this last week was when he was asked, don't you think you have a responsibility to answer whether you would pack the Supreme Court? And he said, no, I don't. I don't need to answer to the vote. Now, later on, he tried to walk that back, but it just goes to show you, you know, his initial reaction, which is where the truth was to be arrogant and say, no, you're not going to get an answer from me. Now he's going to try to nuance his way out of it. But that was the first straw. And the second straw is this story, okay? You can see how arrogant he is. The arrogance of that answer shows he's arrogant enough to believe that Hunter... You have to ask yourself, Biden went into politics at 29 years old. He had to wait to be sworn into the Senate because he was too young for the 30-year-old minimum when he was first elected. And that's all he's done ever since. Meanwhile, he's got multiple homes, millions of dollars. Where did this money come from? The guy makes currently $175,000 a year. That's what no, not currently. As a senator for his 47 years, he made $175,000 a year. Now that's a nice income, but it's not enough to have multiple homes and millions of dollars in the bank and shuttle back and forth between Delaware and Washington, D.C. and raise a family all that time and still end up a multimillionaire. That money, Biden has obviously, as many politicians do. Nancy Pelosi, same thing. She got rich. How? It sure as shit wasn't from her business or her acumen, but I don't want to digress into that right now. The Bidens have grown wealthy trading on their name and their connections in politics. And while the politicians write the rules, and so a lot of the things these people do, like Hunter before he actually got Joe to take the meeting, Joe got trapped into this, it's all perfectly legal, but that's not the issue. Is it right? Let's not talk about legality. Maybe it was legal for Joe to take the meeting. Maybe it'll come out later that he took the meeting, but he'll say it's one of those things that was in passing and it was no big deal, just like when the Trump boys took the meeting with the Russian operative in Trump Tower and then it came to nothing. And which, by the way, ended up being true. And in other words, that they didn't, they just blew it off. Maybe Joe took the meeting just to be polite and blew it off. But underlying it all, okay, maybe there was no crime here, but there was certainly wrongdoing, okay? And it would be a crime in a fair is not the word, I don't like to use fair. Realistic's the wrong word. In a perfect world, which we don't live in, or in a more perfect world, which we could live in, this would be illegal, okay? It should be illegal that a family member can take a position like this and then trade on their name and for influence. Hunter Biden, I'm not quite sure how you write the laws, and God knows I am not an attorney, and I'm not quite sure, but isn't this clearly unethical? Isn't it? But forget, and so what does that tell you? It tells you that Uncle Joe isn't such an uncle after all. He's not such a great guy. In fact, while maybe Trump is just more authentic, and he's much more open about what an asshole he can be, where Biden cleverly tries to pretend that he's, Mr. Nice Guy, but underneath it all, he's just another arrogant, corrupt Washington politician who's getting rich and has gotten rich trading on his office for now going on 5 decades and has raised, since the apple doesn't fall too far from the tree, a corrupt son who became part of the deal, okay? And that's what's going on here. So if you haven't voted for Joe Biden yet, I'd rethink that. Look, you got these two horrible choices. I say it before, I'll say it again. Jo Jorgensen, the libertarian. I know she's not going to win, but you won't be embarrassed by the vote. I don't know what else to say. But certainly, if you were voting for Joe Biden because you thought he was the more honest and mainstream and decent and is going to return things to normal, people forget that the reason that Donald Trump was elected was because normal is corrupt. Normal is filthy. Normal is full of dirty money. Normal is full of bought influence. Normal is completely wrong. Okay, so do we really want to return to normal? I've said it before, I'll say it again. Donald Trump was the wrong man elected for the right reasons. There is a swamp. The swamp is corrupt. Joe Biden is the poster child for that corrupt swamp. The Hunter Biden affair with Burisma and the Chinese government and the millions of dollars that have changed hands, while it may be legal, is certainly corrupt. And Joe Biden does not deserve your vote any more than Donald Trump does, and that's where I'm going to leave it for today. You know, decency in government, we don't have to settle for this. Isn't it amazing? Just before I wrap it up, I just have to say, it's just, again, and I've said it before, I'm sorry, it's a little redundant, maybe it's reflective of my 63 years, but is this really the best we can do? 340 million people, and we come up with these two clowns? Really? This is it? This is the cream of the crop that's running for president of the United States, which is why Antipolitism, which I will review after the election, as I've said, I might review it sooner. You never know with me. I could change my mind. But government by selection, not election, guarantees better people, more honest people, better and more realistic government. But that's where I'll leave that little discussion for today. Okay, now right above my head is the way that you can join the movement. Just text to 844-935-0444, Antipolitism, and join our movement. Also be sure to check, press, click is the word I was looking for. Click on the notification button, please. Click on the subscribe button. Be sure to share this with your friends. Let's spread the word. Let's bring antipolitism to the people. Let us change our country for the better. We are headed for a giant shitstorm, regardless of who's elected. And we need to get our act together. And we need to stop thinking behind us and start looking forward and considering alternatives that may be outside the box, but are certainly better. Okay? Because what we've got going now, well, if we keep going the way we're going down the drain. It's as simple as that. And that's where I'm going to leave this discussion today. Thank you for joining me once again. And until next time, this is E.H. Ivins saying so long.